Hi, Achim Schlöffel, InnerSpace Explorers. Today we are on the second part of the Snorkel files and we talk about the fins. So generally you have two options when you go snorkeling, and I still see a lot of people using this type of fin where you go in barefoot. And I do not recommend them. It is normally a bit of a pain to put them on if they fit properly or they are too big. So when they're too big, what you do is you try to hold them while like tensing your toes, and what normally leads to cramps. If they are too small and you somehow force yourself in there, it also leads to cramps because your foot's kind of squeezed in there. And on the other hand, there's a couple of other disadvantages. So when you go in the water, I mean, you don't want to walk on the ground with your fins on. Also, I see this a lot. So you're barefoot. So when you go into the sea, there's sea urchins and sharp stones and somewhere glass, etc., etc., etc. So you want some protection on your foot, which is not possible with these fins. So, not what I recommend. So what I recommend is the fin that we also use for scuba diving, something like this, which has what we call the foot pocket and some sort of strap on the back. So what you need with these fins is some sort of shoe, and of course you can use one of these neoprene booties that you see on scuba divers, but they're a bit of overkill for snorkeling. And they give your feet a lot of lift, on the other hand, which in snorkeling is not the best thing to have. So what you can do is you can use something like these beach shoes. So that's also neoprene, and those you can wear like normal slippers, and they still protect your heels from the strap, and they are perfect for snorkeling with scuba fins. So they have a rigid sole, so when you step onto a sea urchin or something, your feet are protected, and that's what I would recommend. So talking about the fin, it really depends on your level of fitness, what you're going to use. There's very, very soft fins, and there's more harder fins, more rigid fins. So every manufacturer tries to tell you that his fin is the best, and you have to use the smallest amount of strength to create the maximum thrust and the maximum forward speed, which obviously is nonsense. So if I put the minimum in, I cannot get the maximum out. That's simply not possible. So when you're fit, you're actively swimming, running, etc., you can use a bit more of a rigid fin like this one, which is pretty stiff, and I actually also use it for scuba diving. And that will create quite a bit of forward movement because it pushes the water away, and the fin's not trying to escape the water. So when I push the water, the fin stays hard and actually pushes the water away, which leads to me moving forward in the water pretty fast. If you use a very, very soft fin, like for example the thing I just threw away, which is very flexible, so when you push really hard with this, it actually does a movement like this and tries to go out of the way of the water, so to speak, which creates to much less forward speed. On the other hand, you have less resistance when you push the fins through the water, and therefore it leads to less cramps. So it really depends. So, conclusion, not these fins, but scuba diving fins with these neoprene shoes, and then the rest is actually finning technique. So now we finally go in the water, and I'll show you a couple of finning techniques, descending techniques, and some other stuff.